Welcome back to the Vintage Firearm series. In today's episodes, we're going to be talking about some of the best deals out there. It doesn't matter whether you're going to a gun show, a pawn shop, your small little used gun shop, or the most expensive gun shop out there. Sometimes these deals are out there in the used gun department. Now you can buy used new guns for inexpensive amounts these days, especially at discounters and things like that. And what you're going to get is a discounted gun. And if that's what you want, then that might be the place to go. But if you recognize the quality of vintage shotguns, this is what we're talking about, shotguns, of the past, then it's really hard to imagine you beating it. $100, that's basically your shooting point. That's what you're aiming for when you're looking for a quality shotgun with a single barrel. Now that's the secret. A lot of people think single barrel is cheap. Didn't used to be that way. Single barrels were built like tanks, and it doesn't matter, some of the best shotguns in the world were single barrels. I collect them. Trap guns from the 20s, Ithaca, Parker, they all made them, and they were designed to shoot continuously all day long. But that's not what we're talking about today. What we're talking about today was the shotgun designed for maybe a farmer or just a recreational shooting, but one shot. And the design, there's no patents that I know of on any of these guns, because the design dates back to the 1800s, so nobody had to pay any rights for it, and they could just go ahead and mass produce them. And you can get them in any gauge that you want or bore, depending on the size. Okay, what we're talking about here is, I will verify everything before I say anything. Okay, this is a Winchester, and it was made in Canada, and they made some really good ones. I guess it's basically a 37, but this one is designated as a 370. It's a 410 bore. It's a great gun. Should be where it's 410, you're probably going to pay a little bit more than $100, because that's a desirable bore to go hunting with, especially for a young person or a person of short stature or small stature in general. It's a very light gun overall. We should weigh all of these, by the way. They're all different manufacturers, so it wouldn't be apples to apples, but it's the best I can do. Okay, so it's wonderful condition. You always want to check the chambering, but it's almost always good. This is for 2.5 and 3-inch chambering. Like I said, it's made in Canada. It was a model 370, 410 Winchester. Great gun. I don't remember exactly what I paid for it. I'm going to say 150 maybe. That's because it's the 410 bore. That's my best guess. Let's jump to the next one. Now, this one here I just bought recently, and I do remember exactly what I paid for it. And I paid a lot more for it than you think I should, and I think I should. But I didn't have any choice. Either I wanted it or not. And it's a very rare gauge. It's 28, and they're hard to come by. At the very least, I would say they're hard to come by. The guy I bought it off, a used gun dealer, said he hadn't seen one in his 40 years in business, and he didn't care if he sold it to me. But having said that, considering it's such a very rare bore, $375 out the door, including the background, wasn't a bad price. Let's read what it says on it. 28 gauge choke. That usually means full, but even the fulls aren't full. As a general rule. It has some other things on there which I don't know what they mean. I'll read them out to you. Maybe you do. Barrel and lug forged in one. Someone's going to tell me what that means someday. I'm sure. It's cool. Okay. It's the Iver Johnson that I did a review on this recently. I'm not going to go into it in great detail, but this was a well-made gun. And around the turn of the 1900s, they were one of the largest companies out there. They made three things. Crazy it's going to sound, so hang on. They made guns, they made bicycles, and they made motorcycles. And they were turning over millions of dollars a year, which was a lot of money in those days. Okay, doesn't have a serial number, but I think I dated this approximately to 1945. So it's a great gun. It's got a nice feel to it. Still got most of the bluing. It does have a little, decay on it slightly, but it's just what you would expect. It'd be a great gun to go take to the woods with. You wouldn't worry about hurting it, but still should be respectful because it's a rare old gun. Now I do remember what I paid for this one, $150. And it's a great gun. I don't know who it's made by. I didn't do the research on that, but on the side of the gun it says J.C. Higgins model 101.1, Sears, Roebuck and Company. So it says proof tested. Now, this is maybe why I paid $150 for it, but I don't think it's a negative, but a lot of people do. 16 gauge. 16 gauge, in my opinion, is one of the best gauges out there. And it was very popular for a long time. Everywhere from back in the 20s right on up through the 50s, I think, maybe early 50s. And it was considered a very desirable gauge. It was the maximum of one with the minimum of another. It just worked out great. So it didn't have a massive kick or anything. It wasn't, it didn't destroy what you were shooting at most of the time. You could reach out quite a distance with it, but, not massive, but quite. I mean, if you want to destroy something at 100 feet, take a shotgun. 12 gauge, what I meant to say. Okay, so it's a 2 3/4 inch chamber, so it won't take everything. Some of these 16 gauges, especially, this isn't a Winchester, but especially Winchester, the 16 inches, 16 gauge, you gotta watch them because they short chamber them sometimes. So I don't know why Winchester was doing that, but they were thinking, gee, the ammo isn't gonna be 2 3/4. But here, this is nice because it is, and some of these are 3. I mean, that's idealistic in today's society. Okay, so basically that's it. Let's see what it says on this side. Selected forged steel. I guess you got to put something down there, huh? Okay, let's open this up. And it's still stiff. It was never fired. I don't know if it was ever fired before I got it. I mean, I'm so tired of saying that, but the truth of the matter is, I look for those guns. If you look at the condition of this for $150, it doesn't have a serial number on it, so that's going to predate it to 68. So I would say, with the wood that's on it not being walnut and all, I would say my best guess is early 60s, okay? A remarkable gun. You can take this and shoot it for a lifetime. You will not wear it out. Just clean it with a snake every time you're done. Okay. Now, one of the things I'm trying to show you here is they're available in all gauges. So I just went through my collection and I picked out single barrel shotguns and looked for the different gauges, and I have those. Okay. Not that I was ever doing that. I just love these, and you pick them up. They're out there. You can get anything you want in a pawn shop, a small gun store, even a big gun store. Walk through. Don't be afraid to look in the bargain bins. I find things there all the time that I love. Okay, this is another Canadian gun. It's a Winchester, and this one's called an 840. What was the other one called? Hang on a second. 370. So I don't know what the difference is between an 840 and a 370, but these were both made in Canada. Don't shy away from these at all. These, I forget the company that was involved in this before they went out of business and Winchester bought them. They'd been making these simple guns for a long time, and I say simple, but I didn't say cheap. The quality of them is very, very high. A lot of them, maybe all, the one thing that gets me is when you close them up. I mean, look at how thick that is. Okay. Some of the single barrel trap guns from the 20s, they're like maybe even 3 times that. They're just massive. But I mean, that is never going to have a problem. Okay, the only thing that might fool you is you have to actually cock it every time you go to shoot it. So that kind of gets me. I'm just not used to it. You know, I suppose I just started really getting into these. A lot of the single barrel traps that I traditionally collect, you know, cock when you're opening them or closing them. I mean, that's, you know, a trap shooter's gun. So anyways, another Canadian gun, a fantastic deal. This one says full choke. It's probably somewhat close. And so there you go. Another great deal. It says New Haven, Connecticut, but I am pretty sure, it says Winchester, New Haven, Connecticut. I am pretty sure this is not, no, it says made in Canada. I was right. Okay, so they put their town on it, but the reality is that it's not that. Okay, here's another gun for you, and I've done reviews probably on all of these. New England Firearms Company Incorporated, manufactured in Garner, Mass, USA. Patent number. This supposedly has a patent number. It must be for this little guy to open it up. Normally, you know, you have the lever back here. Case hardening. You rate up here in the chamber, it's pretty thick, but then it starts narrowing down. Let's see what it says on it. Partner model SB1, 12 gauge, 3-inch. So that 3-inch is really nice, especially when you get up to a 12 gauge or 410 gauge. These are guns that are commonly the ammunition is commonly 3-inch. Again, you have, you know, I think all of these are probably going to have to be cocked. It's just a simple thing, but you know, what a wonderful gun. This one's got some scratches on it. Hey, you know, be willing to accept that if you're going to pay $100. I don't remember exactly what I paid for this, but I can guarantee it wasn't too much. And then I thought I'd bring the elephant in the room. Now this guy is heavy. Okay, you know what this is? It's a heavy, this is for ducks and geese and stuff like that. It's a goose gun, I guess. And it's not real old. It's kind of old. It's a Stevens. A model looks like 9478. 3.5-inch shells, 10 gauge. Savage Arms, Westfield, Mass. I should look up and see when they stopped making them there. I'm sure they have. But this doesn't look old. I mean, maybe from the 70s or something. That would be my guess. It weighs a ton. And man, you can really reach out and get something with this. Now, it's going to have a kick for you. It's got a strange release right here. Okay? Sorry. There you go. It's still the cocking mechanism. Now, a lot of these have a real strong spring in them. They're made. I mean, it's like a Model T. It's made to be fixed and repaired by anybody. And very durable. Go off in the middle of nowhere where they, you know, you can't get help. You know, that's what a Model T was. You know, you go out there and I heard rumors that they used to fix Model Ts sometimes if the bearing went bad. Put a piece of leather in there, it would work. So at least for a while, I guess. Let's go out and weigh these. I mean, they're all different. So why? Well, I'll tell you why. Because they're different gauges and stuff, and you'll get an idea and get a feeling for it. It's random, it's crazy, but let's do it anyways, okay? Take it easy. Let's go outside. Okay, so let's go ahead and look at a couple of the weights here and get a kind of figuring out of what it potentially could be. And the reason I decided to do it, they're all different brands, but the reason I decided to do it this way was to show you a potential of what you might find out there. You're not going to go out there and find one brand. They're all going to be different brands. The one you find in your store will probably not be any of these. But that's okay, they're all built the same. And I'm going to show you when we get back inside, hey, remind me, would you, of how to check them out. They're probably the easiest shotgun to check out there because of their simplicity. Okay, let's start off with our 410, which is going to be 410 bore, which is going to be the smallest chambering that we have. And let us see what we got here. Right about there, maybe. Doesn't want to sit very good, does it? Okay, so 5 pounds, 9.5 ounces. That's pretty light because these were heavily constructed. Okay, now we're going to jump up to the 28 gauge. And some of these, you know, it's pretty easy to reload shotgun shells. Okay, just a tad over 6 pounds. So we gained that half a pound going up to the 28 gauge. Okay, now we're going up to the 16. This one feels a little lighter. It's probably due to the wood. Yeah. So again, you know, that 16 gauge, we came up from 28, but it didn't gain the weight, and I'm pretty sure the reason for that is the furniture, the wooden stock. Okay, so next thing we're going to be talking about is, of course, the 20 gauge. This is automatically, I can feel this. This is going to be heavier. Okay, 7 pounds, 1 ounce. And that is, again, the 20 gauge. That was the Canadian gun. The Canadian Winchester, I'm going to call those. Okay. Here is the one made by the New England Firearms Company in Massachusetts. It's a 12 gauge, but it's feeling a little lighter to me. Let's see what we got. There you go. So a lot of times you look at these, if you pick up guns all the time, you probably won't even need a gauge. A weighing machine, you know, you just pick them up and you can feel it right away what it's going to weigh. And because when you're out walking through the woods or something, especially if you're a younger person, now the monster in the group, this is the Goose gun, 10 gauge. Well, let's see if I can balance this up there. Okay, 8 pounds, 9 ounces. So that's a heavy gun. But you can shoot way up in the sky or whatever you need to do at great distances. And again, all of these guns are very dependable. And if you have a problem with one, you can probably go into your local gun shop, gunsmith, and you can get these repaired fairly easily. I would imagine very easily. But it's very rarely you see one that doesn't work. I'm going to show you a couple of things to check. You can do it in just a couple of, probably under 30 seconds. You could check out one of these guns to see if they're most likely any good. Well, we're going to stretch it out to a minute because you're going to take your time. Okay, so now we're going to check them out real quick here. And this is probably the simplest shotgun to check out ever. It's the basic design. It doesn't matter which model. The first thing you're always going to do is to make sure that the cocking mechanism works correctly. You should pull it back and hear a little click. You then hold it on the hammer or the lever, and then you pull the trigger, and then you gently let it back, because you don't, I mean, they would tell you some places that you can fire it if it's a center fire, but I wouldn't. Okay, that's just me. I wouldn't do it. It's just not a good habit to get into. Besides, if you walk into a gun store and you do a dry fire, they're not going to respect you as much as if, without even saying anything, you just do that. Okay? And that tells you pretty much everything you want to know at that point. So then what you want to do is you want to check out the stock to see if there are any cracks. A lot of times if they've oiled them and they set them up like that after they've oiled them, and they've done that year after year, the stock starts to crack and deteriorate. So whenever you oil a gun, it's the minimum amount of oil for the maximum amount of efficiency. Okay, you want to wipe it all down when you're done. I see guys all the time on the internet trying to hawk guns, and they dip them in oil. They must have a big vat out back, and they're drenched, and they think that makes them look good. I don't know what this, what the scoop is. I'm very reluctant. I've never bought a gun off somebody like that, because they've just ruined the gun and they're bragging about it. That just shows their ignorance, unfortunately. So I hate to be cruel, but if that's what you do, I'm sorry. I just radically disagree with that. Okay, the next thing you can do is you can open this up, and this is only a beginning test. This one has no play at all. That's idealistic. That's perfect. It doesn't generally happen that way. Usually there's a tiny, tiny bit, but you shouldn't have a lot of it. And I don't know how to explain to that in words, but feel a few before you buy one, and then you'll know. If they're all loose, then go on to the next store. Okay, so now we're going to put that back. And again, when you go to put that back, here's another thing I'm going to show you that will impress people, is you take the lever and you push it all the way to the side. This one goes quite a ways. And then you put it back. Notice you just didn't hear slam it close and hear a big crack. That's not good for the gun. Okay? So you open it like that all the way. And when you go to close it, you push it all the way and then you close it. That's the professional way. Okay, now, next thing to look at is there a little screw here. If there's a screw here, you have to take that screw out, and they may or may not let you do that in the store. But if there's no screw there, you just lay the gun on its back. I'm going to do it down here. It might not be in the thing. And so maybe I'll do it like this so you guys can see. And you just apply a little pressure. It goes click. And then the forearm comes off, okay? And there's a little clip right here. Different ones are made different ways, and that little clip goes in there. I'll show you that in a little more detail in a minute. So now we're going to do our next test. Our next test is, do we feel any play here? This is crucial. This is the most important one. This is what, this is on face. If this is all loose, you're going to get stuff coming up the back. The gun could come flying apart. There's all kinds of possibilities. Not too many of them are good either, I gotta tell you. So you don't want any play in here. If it's a really old antique, I would accept a tiny, tiny, tiny bit of play. Otherwise, no. A new gun, these things are floating around. I call this a new gun because it's, this one's probably from the 50s or something. So that's relatively new. So now we're going to put that, we're just going to set it in here like that. Again, they're all going to work a bit different. So I want to make sure that little piece goes up in there like that, okay? Just make sure. Sometimes it goes naturally, sometimes you have to guide it. And then that piece in the bottom is already in tight. And then we're going to go like that. Now that's rock solid. So you've checked the gun out. The only thing you haven't checked is the bore. And you're going to want to do that. And you're going to want to look down. And a shotgun, there's no rifling. So you don't have to be concerned about rifling. You know, if you're buying a rifle, you want some rifling in there. And as much as possible, more is better in most cases. But you're looking through the barrel here, and it should be bright and shiny. If it's not bright and shiny and you see any rust, rust means no. So if you see rust or anything like that, you see any indentations from the outside of this barrel where they set it up against something, hit something, it fell over, something like that. Sometimes that happens. The next thing to do is to look through here. And if you can see it through here too, that means no. Okay? Especially if it's a major one. If it was a tiny, tiny one, use your own judgment. I still say no. Okay. I hope this has helped you in your $100 fine of your fine shotgun. Many of them are still available out there. It's a wonderful chance to get a great shotgun for $100 if it's unusual, if it's 410, 28, something like that, you're going to pay a little bit more. If it's 10 gauge and you're going after a goose gun, you're going to pay more than $100. But not much, maybe the maximum, I think for that goose gun, I think I paid $2 something. But the maximum I ever paid was for the 28 gauge. But like I said, you just don't see those. And, you know, I wanted it because I didn't have one, and he wanted it in his shop because he had never had one. So we had to come to an arrangement of $375. And that was the maximum amount I could possibly pay, and that was the lowest he was going to take. So we found common ground. Isn't that cool? Okay, so in any case, I hope you've enjoyed this. Try shooting a shotgun. Go pick out something. If you're new, pick out, and you don't have much money, go for a 20 gauge. Okay? If you want something exotic and you want to be a good shot, go for a 410. Or if you can find one, a 28. A 410 is really tiny, and it's going to require that you be really accurate. So that might be a good one, and that's a bit more common than I would say the 28 for certain. Okay? I will see you soon. And well, at least you will see me soon, hopefully, if you come back to visit. And I would be thankful if you would. And come over and see us on Rumble if you're watching on YouTube. And come over there, and if you'd be so kind to subscribe when you're over there, I'd be thankful as well. So again, we upload on Rumble on a very regular basis. There's a lot more videos on Rumble than there are on YouTube. Look forward to seeing you soon, wherever you decide to be, and thank you so much. Bye-bye.